Disclaimer guy would like you to know this show is based upon works of fiction, therefore any resemblance to real people or actual events is highly unlikely.
Unlikely.
Actually, it's just downright impossible. None of these people are real.
Woe to you of earth and sea.
Welcome to Satan is My Superhero, a show for atheists, scoffers, heathens, and unbelievers. I'm your host, Judas Falling. In this episode, we celebrate the reason for the season, that season being Easter. I know Easter isn't a season, but you know what I mean. Anyway, Easter shouldn't just be an acknowledgement of that time Jesus impregnated a bunny rabbit with chocolate eggs.
Gross.
We should also remember the belligerent, bewitching, beguiling, bewildering, bedevilling, bedazzling, befuddling, bemuddling, besmirching, belittling, beastly betrayer who invented the holiday in the first place.
Judas Iscariot.
Judas Iscariot.
Hooray for Judas!
Judas is the best.
Judas rocks.
We love you, Judas.
I want you to impregnate me with your chocolate eggs, Judas.
Ugh, that turned a bit weird.
We're going to start this episode addressing the elephant in the room you may not even be aware is currently crushing your favourite couch. The historicity of Jesus.
I will now read a list of contemporary sources outside of the Bible that mention Jesus and or his followers.
This historicity question hanging over Jesus actually colours and complicates the character of Judas. If there was an historical Jesus, Judas is the OG atheist, whistleblower who called bullshit on a snake oil salesman, close-up magic con man.
It was in a time before NDAs.
That's the Judas Iscariot I chose as my personal hero as a teenager. But a mythical Jesus leaves me with the uncomfortable truth that my favourite human character in the Bible is actually an anti-Semitic dog whistle. Problematic. There's too much to go into in Judas Iscariot's episode as to why the gospel stories were invented whole cloth by authors who came along after
Self-proclaimed Apostle Paul.
For now, let it suffice to say that an entirely made-up fictional Judas Iscariot, like all totally made-up fictional characters, doesn't just become imbued with symbolism over time, but was a metaphorical, allegorical plot device from inception.
I don't like where any of this is going.
And what symbolism can we see in this character as he is portrayed in the Gospels? Let's start with the name. The name Judas is the Hellenized version of Judah. From Judah we get Judea, the land of the Jews, and indeed from Judea we get the word Jew.
You can go right ahead and just call him Jew from now on.
Most logically, Iscariot is another Greek word meaning man of Kerioth. Two settlements named Kerioth are mentioned in the Old Testament, one in Judea and one in Moab. We can assume Judas came from the Judean town of Kerioth. Whatever happened to that naming tradition?
First, you'll be travelling to Brisbane to meet up with Aaron of Cairns, who will drive you to Phil of Newcastle on the Hunter, not Phil of Newcastle upon Tyne. He's in Tamworth, and we don't want you to go there. Phil of Newcastle on the Hunter will take you to Phil of Tamworth, who's in Gympie. From there, Phil of Tamworth will fly you to Rockhampton. Gladys of Perth will be there to meet you, and she'll drive you to Michael of Darwin, who's in Gladstone. Any questions?
Where am I going?
Now, with some linguistic gymnastics, Iscariot can and has been associated with the Sicarii, a group of Jewish assassins who, according to contemporary historian Josephus, became active somewhere in the 50s of the Common Era.
I love the word assassin. It has ass in it. Twice.
Personally, I think this association is weak, but if you're willing to squint and not ask any follow-up questions, you can tell yourself Judas Iscariot literally means Jew assassin.
Hey Mark, just going over the new draft. Loving it. Just a note on the character name. Jew Assassin?
Oh, that's just a placeholder. I haven't actually come up with his name yet.
Oh, good, 'cause it's a bit on the nose. Oh well, that probably answers my other note about the title of this book. I assume it's also just a working title?
No, the book is going to be called The Sneaky Jews Murdered God.
Personally, I think the symbolism in the name is a stretch, and an unnecessary one. The New Testament goes out of its way to hammer home the fact that all the opposition Jesus ever faced came from the Jews. It bends over backwards to literally wash Rome's hands of the whole affair.
When Pilate saw that he could prevail nothing, but that rather a tumult was made, he took water and washed his hands before the multitude, saying,
I am innocent of the blood of this just person. See ye to it.
Oh, he wasn't joking when he said literally wash Rome's hands of the whole affair.
Wash the guilt away.
Hi, I'm Pontius Pilate. You might remember me from the Bible. I'm the Roman governor who tried numerous times to talk those duplicitous Jews out of murdering Jesus. Have you ever found yourself in the sticky position of presiding over a corrupt judicial system and needed to wash the guilt away? Dobbs. Well, now you can with Wash the Guilt Away.
Wash the guilt away.
Have you ever followed a populist, racist demagogue into full-blown treasonous insurrection, and now you find yourself supporting an actual historically unabashed enemy of your entire way of life in his invasion of an independent sovereign nation? Republicans. Well, now you don't have to admit ego got the better of you and crawl back to the light and the right side of history like some beta cuck loser. You can just
wash the guilt away.
Wash the Guilt Away also works for systematic cover-ups of child abuse. Catholic Church.
Wash the guilt away.
Wash the guilt away. It's innocence you can touch.
Wash the guilt away.
Wash the Guilt Away is brought to you by Christ Incorporated. Christ Incorporated is a subsidiary of Yahweh International. Stay stupid and keep hating.
Stay stupid and keep hating.
When you consider the earliest canonized gospel was written at the height of the First Jewish-Roman War, the pro-Roman anti-Jewish propaganda becomes apparent. The weak and cunning Jews couldn't possibly harm God incarnate, so they tricked the powerful and mighty Roman Empire into executing the saviour of the world. It's not a dog whistle, it's a freaking foghorn.
What's that?
That's the racism fairy.
We better hurry. We don't want to miss it.
No need to rush. There will be another one along in no time at all. There always is.
So what do the canonical Gospels actually say about Judas Iscariot? While there are some minor differences, of course, they mostly agree. He is one of the 12 apostles, personally hired by Boy Wonder himself.
So, Judas, tell me, what's your biggest weakness?
Well, Jesus, I guess I care too much about the welfare of my boss.
Okay, well, I've heard enough. Welcome to the Apostles.
He was selected to be the treasurer for Jesus and the apostles. That's right, this group of 13 holy men had a treasurer.
It's all about the money.
Who should look after all our money?
Give it to Judas. I've got a good feeling about him. And who am I if not an omniscient creator God of the entire universe? It's impossible for me to be wrong about anything.
He is sent out with the other apostles to preach the word.
Hi, I'm Peter, and this is Judas. We're here to talk about Jesus. Jesus is great, isn't he, Judas?
Yeah, sure, whatever.
He takes a payment of 30 pieces of silver to betray the false Messiah.
Don't spend it all at once.
I mean, they don't say false Messiah. I just said false Messiah. In the Bible, it doesn't say false Messiah. It is there if you look for it, though.
Only some of that was accurate.
He betrays the Christ with a single identifying kiss.
Jesus and Judas up a tree. K-I-S-S-I-N-G.
He then regrets what he has done and commits suicide. Are you sick and tired of not being able to look yourself in the face? Nope. Desperate to get a good night's sleep without tossing and turning, racked with guilt?
Nah, it's probably the cheesecake I had before bed.
Support the show on Patreon. Not necessarily because you want to. So quick recap, Judas Iscariot, apostle, treasurer, preacher, betrayer, suicide, that's it. That's absolutely all we know about Judas Iscariot from the Gospels. I would never lie, there's definitely nothing else. Most people raised in Western civilization could tell you most of that story. In the King James Version, he's only mentioned in the Gospels like 20 times. Peter is mentioned around 100 times. Do you know the story of Peter? Do you know anything about Peter? Do you give a flying about Peter?
Peter! Peter. Where do I know you from?
You've probably read about me in the Bible. Jesus said I was the rock upon which he could build his church.
No, that's not it. Weren't we at high school together?
No.
Yeah, you're the kid who shit himself in assembly.
I had a tummy bug.
Judas Iscariot gave us the 4-day weekend we're about to enjoy. Peter is the patron saint of locksmiths.
Yay.
Judas Iscariot is simply the most compelling character in the Bible outside of, and I would argue above, the bearded hippie himself. And I think Western culture agrees. It's very telling how Iscariot has been portrayed by creative people throughout the centuries. For example, in
Dante's Divine Comedy.
Written in the 14th century, Judas holds the highest, or lowest, depending on your perspective, position in the Inferno. Judas is in the very centre of the 9th and final circle of hell. There are only 2 other characters there with him, Cassius and Brutus. All 3 have been eaten by Satan's 3 faces, but Judas occupies the centre mouth, which is the worst one, or best one, depending on your perspective.
I call shotgun.
I call other shotgun. Sorry, Judas, me and Cassius called shotgun.
A 2, Brute?
Now, I've always had a soft spot for Cassius and Brutus. Am I just inevitably drawn to the bad guy? Maybe.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Cassius and Brutus were the lead conspirators and betrayers of Julius Caesar. No argument, a great general and fantastic politician. But he was a despot who had overthrown a 500-year-old republic and replaced it with an authoritarian dictatorship.
He was facing a myriad of legal and financial issues. There were people who wanted to put him in prison. I would highly recommend any oligarch or former reality TV game show host in that position to do the same thing.
I do wonder, in a post-January 6th world, if maybe it's time for a revision of 2,000 years of Julio-Claudian family propaganda. Maybe it's time to redeem Cassius and Brutus.
Alright, Cassius and Brutus, you can get out of the jaws of the hell beast. The people in the future are much smarter and can see through obvious bullshit written by the winners of history.
Oh, really?
No, not really. I'm just kidding. People are still dumb. You're not getting out of those mouths.
You bear! Wank, 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 wank. Wanky pranked!
Anyway, here is what Dante had to say about the torment reserved for the one he viewed as humanity's greatest sinner.
At every mouth he with his teeth was crunching a sinner in the manner of a brake, so that he 3 of them tormented thus. To him, in front, the biting was as naught unto the clawing, for sometimes the spine, utterly stripped of all the skin, remained. That soul up there which has the greatest pain, the master said, is Judas Iscariot.
Satan? How many times do I have to tell you? Don't eat with your mouth open.
In Leonardo Da Vinci's
The Last Supper,
there is only one person of colour in the painting. Do you want to guess who it is?
Shouldn't they all have been people of colour because of, the whole living in the Middle East thing?
I read 3 or 4 articles discussing the symbolism of the painting, and they all claimed Iscariot is seated in a shaded position.
When they say that, they mean brown.
He's not seated in the shade. He's clearly not a white dude like everyone else in the painting. I don't care if Leonardo is your favourite Ninja Turtle. Don't whitewash him. He painted Judas Iscariot as a black man, which by itself, there's nothing wrong with that. It's the context in which he made that artistic choice that really sticks in the gullet.
It was a different time.
Extra, extra, read all about it. 15th century European men might have been a bit racist.
In 1965, Hollywood gave us the greatest story ever told.
Which, if nothing else, starred every single actor Hollywood had produced up until that point in history.
Swedish, blue-eyed, Aryan Max von Sydow as Jesus and the man who played the Russian in The Man from U.N.C.L.E., David McCallum as Judas. The cast also included File 0001 and every NRA member's wank bank, Charlton Heston.
I like to imagine his cold dead hands are clenching it really hard.
The film also featured Pat Boone, Martin Landau, Angela Lansbury, Roddy McDowall, Donald Pleasance, Sidney Poitier, Claude Rains, Telly Savalas, Shelley Winters and even the Duke himself, John Wayne.
You've got to get me off this film. They've put me in a dress.
It's not a dress, it's a tunic.
You said I'd be playing a soldier. I don't even have a gun.
You're a centurion. That is a soldier.
I've read the script. I don't kill any Indians.
John, we've talked about this.
Okay. Native Americans. I don't kill any Native Americans.
The film is a 3.5-hour telling of the Gospels in which Iscariot sells out Jesus, believing no harm will come to him. Despite the Gospels depicting Iscariot coming to his end by hanging, in this fictional take on the original fictional take, he throws himself into a fire.
It's more cinematic, darling.
Here's a little factoid dropped on me by the Reverend.
He's not just 1,000 funny voices.
In the stage musical Godspell, which is based primarily on the Gospel of Matthew, the actor cast to play John the Baptist usually plays Judas Iscariot as well. Also of note, the actor cast to play those two roles in the 1971 London production was none other than Hollywood's go-to bad guy, Jeremy Irons.
Simba, I'm a little surprised to see you alive.
Unfortunately, the Godspell movie used a different Judas, and Jesus is played by that guy from Alias dressed as a clown. When I say clown, imagine, like I went to clown school, but no one told me circuses weren't cool anymore, and now I've got curly hair and a painted nose, and I'm a street performer. That kind of clown, but more lame than that.
I'm trying to imagine that, but I think what you're describing breaks the physical laws that govern the universe.
In the movie, Dracula 2000,
Gerard Butler stars as Dracula, and it is revealed the old vampire is actually Judas Iscariot, who after attempting suicide was condemned to be undead for eternity. This also explains his aversion to the crucifix and silver.
It also explains his smouldering good looks.
In 2007, British politician turned author turned politician Geoffrey Archer co-wrote the novella
The Gospel According to Judas.
The cover of the book claims to be written by Iscariot's son, Benjamin. It's also promoted as historical fiction.
Hysterical fiction, am I right?
Archer takes the angle that Judas, while not being a believer, was a lover of Jesus, and it is Iscariot who is betrayed while trying to get Jesus to safety. More interestingly, the audiobook is narrated by Archbishop Desmond Tutu.
Hey, Desi mate. I've written a piece of heretical fiction and need a narrator for the audiobook.
I'm a man of the Lord. I couldn't possibly do such a thing. How much is it paying?
But the biggest, most important, and definitely most famous portrayal of Judas Iscariot can be found in the award-winning 2012 short film
Fist of Jesus.
After bringing Lazarus back from the dead, Christ accidentally initiates the zombie apocalypse. Jesus and his best friend Judas fight the undead hordes using nothing but dead fish and a 12-foot-tall crucifix.
Why aren't those zombies attacking the Christians? Are they protected by the spirit of Jesus?
No, it's because zombies are attracted to brains.
So as we approach the imaginary anniversary of the mythical event at Golgotha, what have we learned? I have to be honest and admit, Judas Iscariot may indeed be a completely fictional character invented to perpetuate and spread the horrible stereotype that Jewish people are greedy and untrustworthy.
That really, really sucks.
But, counterpoint, 4-day weekend.
It's not a good Friday. It's a great Friday. It's a best motherfunkin' Friday ever.
Disclaimer guy would like to acknowledge that not everyone gets the day off on Good Friday. But we do.
If you're a 45-hour-a-week manual labour wage slave like me, that 4-day weekend is worth pretending it's not all based on 2,000 years of anti-Semitic marketing. I can turn a blind eye. Just watch me.
Most of the music in this episode is provided by the Genuine Hoots of Joy. For more, check out the website satanismysuperhero.com.
They say a good song is just 3 chords and you tell the truth. Yeah, well, here's my truth. I missed you. I missed you. I missed you. Better luck next time.
Remember when I gave you a breakdown of everything we know about Judas Iscariot and said that was all and I would never lie?
Let me guess. You lied.
I lied.
Oh, Judas, you're such a... Judas.
There was one more little snippet I wanted to save until the end. This occurs in the Gospels when one of the many Marys has just washed the Christ's feet with expensive ointment. Judas Iscariot asks Jesus,
"Why was not this ointment sold for 300 pence and given to the poor?"
The answer the OG Christian preacher gives to the OG atheist reveals all you'll ever need to know about the entire religion.
For the poor always ye have with you, but me ye have not always.
Narcissist much?
It's the closest thing to truth in that entire catalogue of bullshit, and that's why Satan is my superhero. If you've enjoyed this episode, rate, review, subscribe, you know the deal. But please do go check out the website, satanismysuperhero.com, where you will find links to the merch store, our Patreon page, and all our social medias.
Here are the Zoomers in a millennial, watching the Godspell trailer for the first time.
Oh my god, why is there a wet t-shirt competition? Why do we see up her skirt? Is this a porn?
He's juggling. This is chaos. What is going on?
That's strange. Don't know about that. Don't know what just happened. I'm kind of lost.
It's definitely a porn. They're about to get it on. Oh, okay.
I think that actor was on crack.
Yep, and now we've got really tight, like, flared pants where it's just, like, all penis.
Thank God this is a podcast, so I'm the only one who has to suffer through this nonsense.
Oh my god, I want to watch this now. What is happening? Rated G! Oh my god. That was, like, an equal parts the best and worst thing I've ever seen.
Rated G.
Lot of the Covenant? What is this, Halo?
I just spoiled the movie. The main guy dies. Or maybe he gets revived. I don't know.